The great chamber of Kareth was filled with quiet voices. Leaders from many alien species gathered inside the glowing council hall, their eyes fixed on the tall figures of the elders. The elders were ancient beings whose memories stretched across thousands of years. Their bodies were fragile now, bent with age, but their minds were sharp, and their wisdom carried weight in the galaxy. One elder, named Vorin, lifted his long hand to silence the restless room. His voice was slow but powerful, echoing across the stone walls. "Beware the humans," he said. "They are not what they seem." The hall grew silent. The younger rulers leaned forward, curious but doubtful. Some had heard this warning before. To them, humans were a small, divided species from a blue world far away. They fought among themselves. They wasted resources. They seemed weak compared to the great powers of the galaxy. Another elder, Saleth, added, "They may appear fragile, but their spirit is iron. They endure what others cannot. If they are pushed, they rise stronger. They adapt faster than any race we have ever known." The younger leaders shifted in their seats. The Council of Kareth was not used to fearing outsiders. They ruled over many worlds, controlled vast fleets, and had armies that stretched across the stars. A counselor from the Trelcor Dominion, whose scaled body glimmered under the lights, spoke loudly. "Humans, they fight like children. Their planet is broken into nations. They bicker, they fight wars among themselves. They have no unity, no discipline. How can they be a danger to us?" Laughter rippled through the chamber. The younger leaders nodded. To them, the humans were nothing more than a species that had barely learned to travel the stars. Vorin's eyes, old and filled with memories of ancient wars, narrowed. "It is because they fight among themselves that they are dangerous. Each struggle teaches them. Each hardship shapes them. Where others would fall, they survive. Where others would surrender, they endure." The words made some pause, but most dismissed the warning. To admit that a small, fragile race could be dangerous felt insulting. The council saw themselves as masters of the galaxy. Why should they fear humans? At the edge of the chamber, a few silent watchers listened carefully. They were not elders nor young rulers, but middle-aged commanders and advisors who had studied reports from Earth. They remembered seeing humans rebuild their cities after disasters, rise after wars, and push forward into space despite endless obstacles. These advisors shifted uneasily, but they dared not speak against the laughter of the powerful. Another voice rang out, sharp and mocking. "Perhaps the elders are frightened by stories," said Lord Merrick of the Vale Syndicate. His armor gleamed as he leaned back in his chair. "They see strength where there is only chaos. Humans are clever, yes, but cleverness does not defeat fleets of warships. They are not united, and a divided people can never win." The room filled again with quiet chuckles and whispers of agreement. Vorin's hand trembled slightly as he pointed toward Merrick. "You do not understand. Unity is not always their strength. Their strength is their will to endure. When one nation falls, another rises. When a city burns, they rebuild it with stronger walls. When they are struck down, they learn from it. And when they are challenged from outside, they forget their quarrels and stand together." The elder's voice grew heavy with warning. "I have seen this pattern before. Civilizations that underestimate humanity do not survive long. Humans may be small in number compared to the stars, but they fight as if the universe itself is against them. That is why I say again, beware the humans." For a long moment, silence covered the hall. The words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Some felt a chill, imagining fragile humans rising again and again like unbroken waves. But then laughter broke the silence. It was not mocking laughter alone, but also nervous laughter, the kind that hides fear behind arrogance. "They are only beginning to colonize space," Merrick said confidently. "We have ruled for centuries. Let us not waste our time fearing shadows." The other leaders clapped their hands or nodded in agreement. One by one, they dismissed the warnings. They voted to ignore the elders' counsel, choosing instead to continue with their own plans of expansion and conquest. The elders sat quietly, their aged faces unreadable. They had seen this before. In their long lives, they had witnessed powerful civilizations crumble because they ignored the hidden strength of humanity. They knew the cycle would repeat, but they no longer had the strength to force change. All they could do was warn. Meanwhile, far from Kareth, humanity continued its restless journey. Ships left Earth every year, carrying settlers, scientists, and dreamers. The humans had begun to spread through the stars. Their ships were not as advanced as the alien fleets, but they were built with determination, patched together with ingenuity, and crewed by men and women who refused to give up even when facing impossible odds. On harsh colony worlds, humans struggled against storms, hunger, and alien landscapes. Many perished, but the survivors always adapted. They learned how to farm new soils, how to use strange minerals, how to live where no other species dared to settle. In their wars on Earth, they had already learned how to fight against overwhelming power. Now, in space, they carried those lessons with them. To the Council of Kareth, humans still seemed like a divided, fragile race. But to the elders who remembered history, humanity was a fire waiting to spread. As the council meeting ended, Voren closed his tired eyes. He whispered to Salith, "They will not listen. They never do." Salith placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. "Then we must watch. When the time comes, the galaxy will see what humans truly are. By then, it may already be too late." Outside the hall, the stars burned quietly, indifferent to the arrogance of rulers or the wisdom of elders. Across the void, on distant colonies, humanity worked, fought, and endured, unaware that powerful eyes were watching them and underestimating them. The Council of Kareth had made its decision. The elders' warnings were pushed aside, and the younger rulers filled the galaxy with their confidence. In their view, humanity was nothing more than an unruly species that had been fortunate enough to climb into space. They believed it would be easy to bring Earth and its colonies under their control. Scouts were sent first. Small hidden ships traveled to the Sol system and circled Earth from high orbits. They recorded endless streams of images and data, humans marching in protests, nations arguing in assemblies, wars flashing across old battlefields, and cities filled with noise and chaos. The scouts returned to the council with their reports. "Look at them," one scout declared, showing recordings of human armies clashing against each other. "They cannot even find peace with their own kind. They waste their energy on endless quarrels. They are weak," another added. "Their ships are fragile compared to ours. Their weapons are primitive. Their fleets are scattered across their colonies. It will be like bending reeds in a storm." The chamber filled with satisfied nods. The reports confirmed what the council had already chosen to believe, but in the quiet corners a few cautious advisors frowned. They saw something different in the recordings. In the middle of ruined battlefields, humans rebuilt cities with determination. In times of disaster, strangers helped one another. In their divided nations, they still shared a common dream of survival. The advisors whispered warnings, but their voices were too soft to be heard over the arrogance of the council. Soon, the decision was final. The council ordered its fleets to begin an annexation of human space. They would strike quickly, capturing colonies and forcing Earth to surrender. To them, this was not a war. It was a show of power. The alien armadas gathered in silence. Hundreds of sleek warships rose from docking bays, their hulls shining under the light of distant stars. Their weapons were unmatched. Their engines were powerful enough to cross entire systems in days. Their commanders boasted of swift victories. The invasion began. The first target was not Earth, but the outer colonies. A human settlement on a frozen world named Asteron 4 became the opening strike. Thousands of colonists lived in domes beneath the icy winds, struggling each day to survive. To the aliens, this colony looked fragile, easy to crush. Warships appeared above the frozen sky, their presence darkening the horizon. They sent demands to the colony leaders: surrender immediately or be destroyed. But the humans did not surrender. Instead, the colonists used their mining machines as weapons. They fired drills and cutting lasers at landing craft. They buried explosives in the ice to collapse entire fields beneath invading troops. Farmers and engineers, who had never been soldiers, stood side by side with rifles scavenged from old stores. When the aliens finally captured the colony after long days of battle, they were shocked at the losses they had suffered. Many of their ships were damaged. Their soldiers were exhausted, and the colonists, though defeated, never begged for mercy. They fought until the very last moment. Reports reached the council, and the young rulers laughed again. "Of course they resisted," one said. "Even weak animals bite when cornered. But they cannot resist for long." More invasions followed. Each time the aliens expected an easy victory. Each time the humans resisted harder. On a desert colony, they used sandstorms as cover, striking supply lines and vanishing into the dunes. On a forest world, they built traps with sharpened wood and fire, ambushing patrols in the night. On asteroid settlements, miners turned their drilling ships into makeshift war machines, crashing them into enemy cruisers. The alien commanders were frustrated. Their fleets won every battle, but each victory came with heavy losses. The humans never seemed to stop. They fought in ways the aliens were not prepared for. They did not march in perfect formations or follow predictable rules of war. They adapted to every situation, changing their tactics within days. One commander wrote angrily to the council, "These humans are not like the others we have conquered. They use the land itself as a weapon. They are not afraid of losing lives because they believe survival is worth any price. If this continues, our fleets will bleed out before Earth is taken." But the council ignored the message. Instead, they mocked the commanders for their weakness. "Do not let farmers and miners frighten you," they said. "You command the strongest fleets in the galaxy. Show your strength. Earth will fall soon enough." And so the fleets pressed on. At last, they turned their eyes toward Earth itself. It was not just a planet to them, it was the heart of humanity. They believed that once Earth surrendered, all colonies would follow. Warships gathered in orbit, their weapons glowing like lines of fire against the night sky. Human leaders on Earth stood before massive screens, watching the enemy fleets descend. They knew they were outmatched. Their ships were fewer. Their weapons were weaker. But surrender was not in their nature. Messages were sent to every colony calling for resistance. Pilots were ordered to launch. Engineers worked day and night to prepare defenses. Ordinary people, farmers, workers, teachers, and miners joined together, ready to fight. The first clashes in Earth's orbit stunned the aliens. Human fighters, though outdated and fragile, dove fearlessly into the largest ships, striking at engines and weapon mounts. Small teams boarded enemy craft, sabotaging them from within. Even when ships were destroyed, survivors launched escape pods toward enemy vessels, ready to continue the fight with whatever tools they had. To the council watching from afar, it still seemed like desperation. They believed humans could not stand against their power for long. But the elders, sitting in silence, knew the truth. They saw what others refused to see. Every battle, every loss, every desperate act, these were lessons for humanity. Lessons they would learn quickly. Lessons that would soon turn the tide. The elders whispered among themselves, their voices heavy with sorrow. "They laugh now," Voren said softly, "but laughter will not last. They think humans are weak because they see only the surface. But soon they will understand. And when they understand, it will already be too late." The war against humanity dragged on longer than the alien council had ever expected. What began as an easy campaign turned into a series of costly battles. At first, the alien fleets claimed victories, but they soon realized that each battle taught the humans something new. The humans did not simply repeat mistakes. They studied every defeat carefully. Engineers broke down captured enemy weapons and learned how they worked. Pilots memorized alien attack patterns and found clever ways to avoid them. Soldiers who survived passed their knowledge to others, so each new fight became harder for the invaders. The council received reports that were troubling. Commanders complained of human ambushes destroying supply lines, of entire fleets being delayed because humans mined asteroid belts with hidden explosives, and of alien warships captured intact and turned against their former owners. At first, the council dismissed these reports as exaggerations, but soon, the evidence became undeniable. One alien general wrote in desperation, "They adapt faster than any enemy we have ever faced. Their ships grow stronger after every battle. Their weapons, once weak, are now able to pierce our shields. It is as if every defeat becomes their teacher. If this continues, we will not be the conquerors. We will be the conquered." Still, the young rulers in the council laughed. "It is impossible," they said. "Humans cannot rise against us. They are too few, too divided." But the galaxy was beginning to whisper. Other species, long under the shadow of the council's rule, watched carefully. They saw humanity's courage. They saw a race that would not surrender, even when faced with overwhelming power. Secretly, some began to send supplies and information to the humans, hoping that this stubborn species might do what they themselves had never dared: stand against the council. On Earth, the change was clear. Human scientists and engineers worked day and night, studying alien technology from wrecked ships. Within months, they created hybrid weapons, half human design, half alien. Their ships grew faster, their weapons more precise. What the aliens had thought impossible became reality. The first great victory came above the colony world of Haven's Reach. An alien fleet arrived to crush the settlement, expecting resistance to crumble as before. But this time the humans were ready. From behind the planet's moons, human warships appeared, small, patched together, but carrying new weapons built from alien designs. They struck with perfect timing, targeting weak points the invaders never thought could be attacked. Alien ships burned in the skies, their commanders stunned at the speed and precision of the counterattack. When the battle ended, the alien fleet had been destroyed, and the humans held the field. Across the galaxy, the story spread. The Council had been defeated, not by another empire, but by the very species they had once mocked as weak. The elders, watching from their quiet chambers, were not surprised. Salith whispered to Varen, "It has begun. Humanity has turned the tide." Voren nodded slowly. The Council's pride blinded them. Now they will pay the price. The war changed after Haven's Reach. The humans no longer fought only to survive. They fought to win. Colony after colony rose up inspired by the victory. Farmers became soldiers. Engineers became weaponsmiths. Miners turned asteroids into fortresses. Every human, no matter their background, carried the same fire. The will to endure and the will to fight back. The alien fleets struggled. Every new attack was answered with stronger resistance. Where they once advanced easily, now they faced traps, ambushes, and counterstrikes. Their losses mounted, and their commanders grew desperate. The council chambers, once filled with laughter, were now filled with arguments and fear. Reports piled up. Human fleets spotted near the Orion Belt. Entire supply convoys destroyed. Captured technology used against us. The young rulers who had mocked the elders now shouted at one another, searching for someone to blame. Some demanded peace talks. Others called for stronger attacks. But none of them admitted the truth, that their arrogance had led them here. Meanwhile, human fleets pushed further. What began as defense turned into offense. For the first time in history, alien worlds that had once sent ships to conquer others now found human fleets in their skies. On one world, alien citizens looked up to see banners of Earth displayed on orbiting stations. They had never imagined the fragile humans could reach their home, but now they saw the truth with their own eyes. Fear spread through the Council's territories. Species who had once bowed to their power began to rise. They saw humanity as a symbol, proof that the Council was not invincible. The final blow came when humans launched a daring strike against a major shipyard near Kareth itself. Using stolen codes and captured vessels, human soldiers infiltrated the shipyard, planting explosives deep within its structures. In a single night, one of the largest war factories of the Council was reduced to fire and wreckage. The shock was too much. The Council, once so confident, now sat in silence. Their fleets were broken. Their worlds were under attack. Their citizens questioned their rule. In the great chamber, the elders returned to speak once more. Voren's voice was calm, though filled with sorrow. "We warned you. Humanity is not prey. They are not weak. They are survivors, and survivors are the most dangerous enemy of all." The Council could only lower their heads, knowing the truth too late. Far away, on Earth, humans gathered to celebrate their victories. But they did not see themselves as conquerors. They saw themselves as protectors, standing not only for their own survival, but for the freedom of all who wished to live without fear. The war was not over, but one truth was now clear across the stars: humanity, underestimated and mocked, had risen to change the fate of the galaxy. And nothing would ever be the same again.